We were watching horrors on the Korean internet today, or Korea's internet. So my English is getting dumb. I'm getting dumb and dumber day by day. My English is getting worse. Like, anyway, I wasted a few minutes, but we should just go right into the video. After the Japan's one, I'm interested in this one. I'm watching this. Come on. It's 36 minutes, so I should not waste too much of a time. But let me just roll an intro. I don't know if I have an intro, but let me roll it up. I don't know if you have noticed, but I got acne, so don't mind them. Yeah, I got acne. I'm chopped. But don't mind it. Alright, let's start the video. This video has 404 threads. Oh, thread. I can't even read English, bro. What the? Alright, let's go.
In 2024, a Chinese television program decided to try something different. They
Isn't this
gave their
Korean?
hosts hidden camera glasses and tiny microphones, dressed them up like regular tourists, and sent them out into the streets of Seoul, South Korea. The goal was straightforward: find out if solo travelers were really being targeted by religious cult members. What they recorded over the next few hours would show
you can find
just
them
how
everywhere.
well organized and psychologically manipulative these groups really were. Xiaohua, one of the hosts, puts on her camera glasses and talks through the plan with her partner. They've been hearing warnings from locals. Be careful when you're traveling in Korea. Random people will come up and start talking to you on the street. Before you realize what's happening, they'll be trying to get you to join their religion. The team splits up. Xiaohua starts walking through Hongdae, one of the busiest neighborhoods in Seoul, trying her best to look like a confused tourist. She walks around holding a cup of milk tea, wandering like she's lost. For almost 2 hours, nothing happens. Then she changes locations to Sinchon, on a quieter side street about 200 meters from a basketball court. A woman approaches. The camera captures her innocent eyes and gentle smile. She tells Xiaohua she wants to talk about Korean culture. The woman pulls out her translation app and starts talking about Seolal and Chuseok.
大概要多久？
Korean holidays. She shows pictures of hanbok. It seems harmless at first, but then a man appears and starts walking with them. Xiaohua asks if they know each other, and the woman says they're student and teacher. Meanwhile, Xiaohua's colleague is following from a distance with his own hidden camera. He's watching as this woman slowly leads Xiaohua away from all the crowded areas and into a small park on the side of the street. The woman's friendly questions turn into a more direct offer. Would Xiaohua like to actually experience traditional Korean culture for herself? There's a place near Sindarim subway station, she says. It only takes about 20 minutes to get there. What the woman doesn't mention is that this has absolutely nothing to do with Korean culture. This is about a religious group called Daesun Jinriho. The cult's history goes back to Korea's early 1900s, when a man named Kong Jong-san claimed he was the human form of the supreme.
Shit, he even looks evil. I wouldn't even trust this guy, bro. What? I wouldn't even trust this guy around my dog.
God sent down to reorganize heaven and earth. When he died in 1909, his followers split into dozens of groups. One grew into what we see today, an organization worth billions, built on making people afraid and guilty about their ancestors. The hidden camera keeps recording as Xiaohua gets led through Seoul's rainy streets to an unmarked building. From the outside, you might think it's a bar or office space. The location sharing on Xiaohua's phone suddenly stops working. Her colleague, watching from across the street, starts getting worried. It's 8:30 in the evening, and she's been inside for over an hour with no response to his messages. He ends up sitting in a nearby fried chicken restaurant, which is kind of funny in a dark way because Xiaohua had been asking to eat fried chicken for 3 straight days since they got to Korea. Now here he is, eating it without her, while she's stuck inside doing who knows what. The chicken doesn't taste good at all because he feels so guilty about the whole situation. situation. When Xiaohua's camera glasses finally turn back on, we can see what she went through inside that building. The video is broken up and incomplete, but it shows enough. She's on the second floor in what looks like a small office with a desk. There's a screen on the wall with white text written vertically, something about the 9 heavens god and return to position. The woman, who introduces herself as Wu Baozhen, takes
Seriously, hear my take on this. Hear my take on this. I wouldn't go with her. I mean, if a more gorgeous woman approached me, I would go with her. No questions asked. I will just live with her. I'll follow her everywhere. But with her, hell no. No way. No woman, no way.
Xiaohua through a series of small rooms. All the doors are shut. The whole setup seems designed to make you feel confused and off balance. They take away her phone right away. They ask for her name, her birth date, and her parents' names. She hesitates, but the woman just keeps smiling. Then they make her change into a hanbok. What follows is an exhausting ritual that goes on for hours. Xiaohua has to sit cross-legged, bow over and over, stand up, sit back down. Her legs cramp so bad she can barely stand. Then Wu Baozhen takes the paper with Xiaohua's information and starts burning it in the palm of Xiaohua's hand, chanting in Korean the whole time. Weird. When it's over, Wu Baozhen tells her, "You have entered the path now." But here's what the cult actually teaches, the part they don't explain during that friendly first conversation. They believe all suffering comes from ancestral grudges. Every sickness, accident, or heartbreak is punishment passed down through your family. The only way to free yourself and your ancestors is to build up dong or merit. And how? By giving them money. Money offered directly to the gods is the highest form
I don't have
of
money
good
for
deed.
myself.
To see how far this manipulation could go, the program sent in a second person. Wu Zhong pretended to be Xiaohua's friend, who she randomly met while traveling. His camera footage is even more disturbing. When Wu Zhong hesitates about donating money, the teacher's face changes. She tells him one day of delay means his ancestors suffer a month in the underworld. His trouble sleeping and headaches are caused by angry spirits demanding payment. They ask how much money he brought for his trip, then start managing his finances. They suggest he could save 2 million yuan by staying at the cult's facilities instead of a hotel. That money could save his ancestors. Every time he hesitates, if you truly cared about your family's peace, you would donate today. At the bank, the teacher refuses to let cameras see her face.
If I had a gun, I would shoot her right now.
When Wu Zhong hits his withdrawal limit, she panics. They rush to the airport since Wu Zhong must leave that day. She takes his suitcase until he withdraws the last 500,000 yuan. The money gets deposited under Dawn Truth Society, a front for Daisun Jinriho. Legally, it's voluntary, but really, it's spiritual ransom. Even after the reporters leave Korea, the calls don't stop. 40 missed calls in one day. Messages saying, "We only want what's best for you. Your ancestors are waiting." Xiaohua later admits something surprising. She misses them. The recruiters were kind and gentle, seemed to care more than anyone else. When you watch Wu Baozhen crying real tears during their last talk, pleading about how the cult saved her life, it's hard to tell if it's real. The crew says if she's acting, she deserves an award. Wu Baozhen explains that before the cult, she was fighting with her family daily, couldn't keep a job, struggling with everything. Xiaohua asks, how can you convince someone like that? What can you say? Nothing. Today, Daesun Jinriho runs temples, universities, and hospitals worth billions, while draining members of houses, inheritances, and savings. And on Seoul's streets right now, recruiters with kind faces still approach solo travelers, ready to talk.
You know what? Let's go to Seoul one day and find these recruiters, bro. And then when they follow, when they'll follow, that's not the right word. Then when they lead you, when they lead me to the parking, yeah, my English is getting worse. The park, I'll beat them up.
Talk about Korean culture.
Case 2, okay, case 2.
Dosawuchi is a Korean YouTuber who explores abandoned buildings and derelict structures, sometimes live streaming his explorations of empty houses and ruins across Korea. Unlike typical urban explorers, he's unfortunately become known for something darker. He's discovered human remains in abandoned locations more than once over the years. This wasn't his first encounter with death during his explorations, which is why experienced viewers recognized the significance when they saw his video title. The title read, Samga goinyi myeongbogul bimnida, a phrase that translates to, May the deceased rest in peace, words that are only used in Korean when someone has actually died, never as a joke or exaggeration. Before anyone even clicked the video, Korean viewers already understood what they were about to witness.
Be careful, there are glasses, broken glasses everywhere. I mean, abandoned places. Ooh. I feel like that place would be too stinky, bro. Too stank. I mean, if it's rotting, the corpse, that is.
Entering a completely burned out and abandoned building with no electricity or signs of recent activity, Dosawuchi immediately noticed the atmosphere felt unnaturally quiet and wrong. As he moved deeper inside, he observed that windows had been deliberately sealed, curtains were drawn shut, and plastic sheets had been carefully taped over cracks and gaps in the walls. The level of preparation struck him as unusual, even for an abandoned structure. When he found the body lying in one of the rooms, he noticed the person's shoes had been neatly placed outside the doorway, a detail that immediately signaled to Korean viewers what had happened here. The deceased had clearly been there for months, and the meticulous preparation throughout the room, the sealed windows, the positioned bowls to prevent fire spread, the drawn curtains to prevent anyone from seeing inside, all pointed to the same tragic conclusion.
이걸로도 될 것 같아. 이걸로 따면 되겠다. 열어서. 이걸로. 여러분 열기 전에 잠깐만 저 마음의 준비 좀.
Shouldn't he call the cops and not mess around there?
마음의 준비 좀 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
Oh, he doesn't know
저
yet.
방송하는 사람입니다. 제가 지금부터 문을 열 거거든요. 너무 놀라지 마세요.
Oh, he felt it. He felt the smell, I think. I don't know what they said in Korean though. Ooh, there's plastic over there. Logan Paul Part 2. Logan Paul Korean edition. I said it's really Logan Paul Korean edition, bro.
Dosawuchi stepped outside and calmly called the police, providing exact location details and confirming he had personally seen the body. This should have triggered an immediate police dispatch, but what happened next sparked widespread outrage across Korea. The police officer on the phone didn't immediately send units to the scene, instead asking if Dosawuchi could go back inside the abandoned building and take photographs of the deceased. Korean viewers were furious because civilians should never re-enter a death scene. It could destroy evidence if foul play was involved. It could be dangerous, and it causes extreme trauma to untrained people. In a later pinned comment, Dosawuchi clarified that police thought he was still inside when they made the request, and that he went back voluntarily because they said it might help the investigation. But most Koreans still argued that police should never even suggest such a thing to a civilian.
Looks like a movie, not gonna lie.
In July of 2012, a 94-second piece of dashcam footage would completely hijack the Korean internet for almost a week straight, dividing the entire online community into two violently opposed camps, arguing about whether what they were witnessing was real or staged. The video was uploaded on July 13th with a title that roughly translates to "A Ghost Taken in a Black Box," referring to the dashcam recording device, and it shows what appears to be a completely ordinary nighttime drive through a narrow street in the Mokdong area of Seoul until something deeply unsettling starts to happen. The footage begins unremarkably enough with the typical grainy quality you'd expect from a dash cam in that era, showing the view through the windshield as someone drives slowly through what looks like a residential alley or side street at night, with the timestamp running in the corner and everything appearing totally normal for the first portion of the clip. But then the driver and their passenger, described in several Korean news reports as a woman, start to notice something strange appearing on the windshield itself, something that looks like strands of black hair somehow stuck to the glass right in front of them, even though they're inside a moving vehicle.
Alright, let me see that.
The driver reacts the way anyone would and turns on the windshield wipers to clear away whatever this strange substance is. But when the wipers sweep across the glass, the hair-like strands don't go away at all. They just stay there clinging to the windshield as if they're not affected by the physical wipers passing over them. This is the detail that made the video work so effectively as a piece of horror content, because up until this moment, everything feels completely mundane and believable. Just two people driving at night who notice something weird on their car, and the fact that the wipers can't remove these strands creates this creeping sense that something is fundamentally wrong with what they're experiencing. The passenger suggests pulling over to check what's going on, which again feels like a totally reasonable response to this bizarre situation. So the driver starts to slow down the vehicle and begins pulling toward the side of the narrow street. The moment the car comes to a stop, or gets close to stopping, the entire tone of the
Could be.
video shifts violently as a long-haired female figure suddenly appears right at the windshield in an abrupt reveal that comes so fast it feels like a genuine jump scare rather than something
that is
carefully
someone.
choreographed for effect. The video spread through Korean online communities and social networking sites
That is
with
someone up there.
incredible speed over the next few days, and by July 17th, just 4 days after the initial upload, the Mokdong ghost had climbed into Naver's real-time search rankings, which is significant because Naver is Korea's dominant search engine, and getting into those trending searches means the entire country is talking about something. Multiple Korean news outlets would eventually cover the phenomenon, with articles appearing in major publications trying to explain what people were arguing about and why this particular piece of footage had captured so much attention so quickly. The reason it spread so effectively was precisely because it didn't look like a typical horror short film or some obvious piece of fictional content. It looked like found footage from an ordinary person's dash
You
cam
can see the
that
eye,
happened to
forehead.
capture something unexplainable. And that ambiguity is what made people genuinely uncertain about whether they were looking at something
Probably good
real
acting.
or fabricated. The Korean internet split almost immediately into two distinct camps, with people arguing passionately on both sides of the authenticity debate, with one group insisting the video was obviously staged or digitally edited, while the other group defended it as potentially genuine footage of something paranormal. The people who believed
Trust
it might be
me.
real pointed to specific elements of the video that seemed to support their interpretation, particularly the fact that the first 70 seconds or so don't feel like a horror production at all. They feel like authentic dashcam footage
Because
of
it is
confused
meant to feel
people
like
trying
an
to figure out
authentic
what's
dash
happening
cam
to their
footage.
car. The detail about the hair
But it is
appearing on the
fake.
windshield and not being affected by the wipers felt to many viewers like the kind of strange physical interaction that would be difficult to fake convincingly. And the final reveal of the figure felt so sudden and poorly framed that some people interpreted it as something caught
They're
by accident
amateurs.
rather than something performed deliberately for the camera. The way the clip was presented also contributed to the sense of authenticity because it wasn't uploaded as part of some established horror content creator's channel with explanations and context. It just appeared online and started spreading through shares and reposts the way genuine, unusual footage tends to spread. On the other side of the debate, skeptics pointed to several elements that suggested the video was carefully constructed rather than genuine, with Korean news articles documenting the main arguments people were making to debunk it. One of the biggest red flags people noticed was that the date stamp on the footage showed Friday the 13th, which is such an obvious horror movie trope that it seemed too convenient to be coincidental. The visual appearance of the figure that appears at the end, with its long black hair covering the face, bore a strong resemblance to well-known horror imagery from movies like The Ring, suggesting this was someone deliberately invoking familiar horror
a classic
aesthetics
horror
rather
thing,
than
bro.
capturing something unknown.
The woman in
People
white.
also found it suspicious that the footage conveniently cuts off right after the reveal without showing any
That's what I'm
follow-up
saying.
or aftermath, which is often a sign of staged content that ends exactly where the creators intended it to end, rather than continuing to record the way real dashcams typically would. Within days of the video reaching peak viral status, mainstream Korean media outlets began reporting on what they claimed was the true origin of the footage, and this is where the story takes an interesting turn that actually makes it more unsettling rather than less. Multiple reputable news sources, including ZDNet Korea and Asia, reported that the video was deliberately created by a viral marketing company as a demonstration of their ability to generate massive online buzz and word-of-mouth engagement. According to these reports, a marketing firm identified only as Company H admitted to creating and uploading the video,
Company
claiming
H.
it wasn't promoting any specific product,
Company
but
Hulk,
was
Company
instead
8.
meant to showcase their capabilities in making content go viral across Korean social media. One outlet reported that someone connected to the marketing campaign had actually posted ahead of time about their plans to push the Mokdong ghost keyword into Naver's real-time search rankings, which if true would mean the entire viral spread was orchestrated from the beginning as a calculated demonstration of marketing power. But here's where things get genuinely strange
Could be,
in
yeah.
a way that keeps the door open to doubt and conspiracy thinking even after the official explanation was provided. According to Asia's reporting, when the viral marketing company told reporters about their involvement, they claimed to have posted a detailed explanation on their company blog about how and why they created the video. But this explanation post was set to private visibility, meaning ordinary people visiting the blog couldn't actually read it or verify what the company was claiming about their methods and intentions. If this really was just a harmless marketing stunt designed to demonstrate viral capability, the question becomes, why would they hide the explanation from the very public whose attention they were trying to capture and prove they could manipulate? Korean news coverage about other dashcam ghost sightings that emerged in later years, including a case covered on the SBS television show Man in Black Box, involving a ghost-like woman appearing on a road, specifically mentioned the Mokdong ghost as a precedent example of how these viral videos sometimes turn out to be staged promotional content, but even those retrospective mentions acknowledge that the format of dashcam horror has produced incidents where the line between staged content and genuine unexplained footage remains difficult to determine with absolute certainty. The culture of night fishing along the Han River in Seoul is not too different from urban fishing communities in most other major cities around the world, with local YouTubers regularly uploading their late-night sessions to document their catches and share tips about the best spots along the waterway. And many of these channels have built up dedicated followings of viewers who enjoy the peaceful, almost meditative quality of watching someone fish in the quiet darkness, with nothing but the sound of water and the glow of their equipment. On the night of July 7th, one such fishing YouTuber set up his gear down by the Han River in the Yeouido area, specifically near the National Assembly Riverside parking section, which is a popular spot that many Seoul residents would recognize as a relatively safe and well-trafficked location even at night, and he began his typical routine of casting his line and waiting for bites while filming the session for his channel. Everything was progressing normally for the first portion of the night, with the usual sounds of the river and the occasional ripple on the water's surface. But then something caught his attention that made him initially think he'd hooked something absolutely massive on his line, some kind of fish that was big enough to create serious resistance and pull on his rod in a way that suggested real weight and power. But as he focused his attention on the dark water in front of him, he realized that what he was seeing didn't move like any fish he'd ever encountered before, and you can hear the shift in his voice on the recording as he starts to process what's actually happening out there on the river. What he described seeing was a huge, black, thick object that kept surfacing and disappearing repeatedly on the water's skin, rising up as if it was testing the air or checking its surroundings before sinking back down beneath the surface. And this pattern of appearing and vanishing continued over and over in a way that felt deliberate and controlled, rather than the erratic movements you'd expect from a struggling fish or even a group of animals swimming together. The shape wasn't moving with the current or drifting aimlessly. It seemed to be maintaining its position in roughly the same area of the river. And more unsettling than that, it appeared to be moving toward him with this steady, purposeful glide that made it clear this wasn't some inanimate object floating downstream. You can hear the panic building in the YouTuber's voice as he narrates what's happening, basically saying things like, "What is that? I'm scared. It's coming this way," as he watches this massive dark shape continue its approach. And the fear in his voice feels completely genuine rather than performed for the camera, because there's something deeply primal about watching an unidentified object of significant size moving toward you in dark water when you can't see what's underneath the surface. He estimated that the object stayed visible in that general area for approximately 20 minutes, surfacing and submerging in its strange rhythmic pattern, and during that time he was able to get a sense of its size, which he judged to be at least 6 meters long and possibly extending up to 10 meters, with a thickness that appeared greater than a human body. And at certain points during the sighting, he even got the impression that it might actually be two separate bodies moving in coordination through the dark water rather than a single creature. Eventually, the YouTuber made the decision to pack up his equipment and abandon the fishing spot entirely, which is significant because dedicated night fishers don't typically leave a good location unless they have a compelling reason to do so, and the fact that he chose to end his session and leave the area suggests he felt genuinely uncomfortable or unsafe continuing to fish with whatever this thing was moving around in the water nearby. After he uploaded the footage to his channel, the video sparked an immediate flood of reactions and theories from viewers who were trying to make sense of what the footage appeared to show, with the comment section filling up with speculation and debate about what could possibly create the movement and appearance that was captured on camera. Some viewers tried to rationalize what they were seeing by suggesting it could be a group of animals like otters swimming together in a formation that made them appear as one large mass, which is a reasonable enough explanation, except that people who are familiar with how otters move in water pointed out that the movement pattern and the sheer size didn't really match what you'd expect from even a large group of these animals. Other commenters started throwing out darker and more disturbing possibilities, with some suggesting it could be a released pet crocodile that had grown to significant size after being dumped in the river, which is not as far-fetched as it might sound, given that there have been documented cases in various countries of exotic pets being released into waterways where they survive and grow to alarming proportions, and people started warning about how quietly and efficiently something like a crocodile could approach before launching an attack on an unsuspecting person standing at the water's edge. The theory that generated perhaps the most concern among Korean viewers was the possibility that this could be a fully grown python or some other large constrictor snake that had either escaped captivity or been deliberately released into the Han River, because the smooth, undulating movement of the object as it surfaced and submerged did bear some resemblance to how large snakes move through water, and the idea of a massive python living in the Han River and hunting at night is the kind of urban legend that takes root in people's minds precisely because it's just plausible enough to be terrifying. What makes this sighting particularly unsettling is that none of the common explanations fully account for what the footage appears to show, because if it was just otters or other known river animals, you'd expect to see more distinct individual shapes or movements rather than this single massive dark form. And if it was debris or some kind of floating object, you wouldn't see the controlled, purposeful movement toward the fisherman's location that seems to suggest awareness and intention. The Han River runs right through the heart of Seoul and is used daily by thousands of people for recreation, fishing, and waterfront activities, which means the idea that something large and unidentified could be moving through these waters at night transforms a familiar urban space into something that suddenly feels unknown and potentially dangerous. Because once you've seen footage of something too long, rising and sinking in water that's supposed to be completely ordinary and safe, every ripple and shadow on the river's surface starts to feel like it could be hiding something making decisions underneath. We can ultimately only speculate about what this YouTuber actually encountered that night down by the Uido riverside, and whether it was a misidentified group of animals, an exotic pet that survived and grew in the wild, or something else entirely that Seoul's urban waterway is quietly harboring beneath its surface. But what's certain is that this one quiet fishing night turned into the kind of story that fundamentally changes how you look at black water after dark.
Oh, case 5. Is this the last case?
It's September 22nd, 2024. South Korea is grappling with ongoing concerns about drunk driving fatalities on its roads. Live streaming has become a dominant form of entertainment, with creators broadcasting everything from cooking shows to late-night urban exploration. And in the early morning hours, around 3:50 a.m. in the Sanwol-dong area of Gwangsung District in Gwangju, a YouTuber in his early 40s, known by the surname Choi, is conducting what he calls a drunk driver hunting patrol, live streaming to an audience watching in real time as he spots an SUV that he suspects is being operated by someone under the influence. He doesn't call the police and wait for them to handle it. Instead, he begins following the vehicle while narrating his suspicions to his viewers. And within minutes, 2 additional cars driven by his subscribers who are watching the stream join the pursuit, turning a single suspicion into a 3-vehicle chase through the darkened streets of a sleeping city. The pursued SUV driver, whether actually intoxicated intoxicated or simply terrified by multiple unknown vehicles aggressively following them through residential neighborhoods, eventually crashes into a parked large truck with such catastrophic force that the SUV becomes engulfed in flames. The driver dies from their injuries. The live stream captures everything, and what started as content about public safety ends with a death, criminal charges for 12 people, and a national debate about where citizen reporting ends and dangerous vigilantism begins. The phenomenon that led to this tragedy didn't emerge overnight. Drunk driver hunters, or Yumjunjeon Heonteo as they're known in Korean, represent a specific evolution of citizen journalism that's unique to South Korea's particular combination of widespread dashcam culture, aggressive live streaming platforms, and legitimate public frustration with drunk driving deaths. These aren't people who simply report suspicious driving to authorities. They're content creators who have built entire channels around late-night patrols where they actively search for erratic behavior on the roads, and when they find a vehicle they believe might be operated by an intoxicated driver, they don't provide a description and location to police and move on with their night. They begin an active pursuit while broadcasting everything to audiences who watch the hunt unfold in real time, often sending donations and encouragement through chat messages that can financially reward more aggressive or dramatic chases. The format creates a perverse incentive structure where the more intense and dangerous the pursuit becomes, the more engaged the audience gets, and the more money flows to the creator, transforming what could be simple civic duty into a form of performance where escalation is rewarded and caution is boring. What made the case against Choi particularly damning wasn't just that one person died during one of his pursuits, though that alone would have been enough to spark serious legal scrutiny. Prosecutors uncovered evidence suggesting this was part of an established pattern stretching back to at least late 2023, with multiple pursuit live streams conducted over many months and numerous subscribers participating in various chases. In one separate incident from 2023, Choi had allegedly blocked a completely sober driver from getting out of their car, essentially unlawfully confining someone who hadn't committed any traffic violation at all, which made it impossible for him to credibly argue that his activities were purely motivated by public safety rather than by the need to create dramatic content that would attract viewers and generate revenue. Even more troubling, investigators found evidence that drivers who weren't actually linked to drunk driving were sometimes chased and threatened without legitimate justification, meaning innocent people were being subjected to terrifying high-speed pursuits simply because a YouTuber made a snap judgment based on limited observation and then decided to turn that suspicion into content. That's the story, and it's one of those cases that stays with you long after the video ends because it reminds us that the line between documentation and participation, between reporting and escalation, between helping and harming, is thinner than we'd like to admit in this age of instant content and live audiences. If you found this story as disturbing and thought-provoking as I did, leave a comment below sharing your thoughts on where that line should be drawn. And if you want to see more deep dives into cases that reveal the darker intersections of technology, social media, and real-world consequences, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on because there are plenty more stories like this one that deserve to be told. These aren't just internet curiosities or viral moments. They're real events involving real people whose lives were fundamentally changed by decisions made in front of cameras and audiences, and understanding what happened and why it happened matters more than we often realize. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
That was a pretty good video. I'm gonna leave a like. So I'm just saying that the Japan one was better. Not because I'm glazing Japan. The video was much more interesting. But anyways, it's Valentine's night. I don't have a date, so I'm watching these videos. Now I'm sleepy, so I'm just gonna go to sleep. Damn, this video really made me sleepy. I wasn't even sleepy when I started this video. What? The background music made me sleepy. But anyway, I'll see you again. I'll catch you again in another video. Good night for now. Bye.